Hi everyone, and welcome to Off the Arrow Shelf podcasts. This podcast is aimed at people who are interested in field archery here in the UK. We'll cover coaching tips, advice on shooting, shoot reviews, and we might even manage to have some guests. I'm your host, Rob, and I hope you enjoy it. Welcome everyone to another episode. Quick intro as to what we're going to be doing and what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how we got into archery, but I thought I'd give you a quick recap of what I've been up to for the last few weeks. I'm experimenting with new arrows. I'm experimenting with a different bow, so there's lots of things that are going on. I'm giving the style Trad Bow Hunter a go. This is a style that is shot under National Field Archery Society, which is the setup is a bow that's not a compound bow. There's no rest on it, no sights on it, or anything like that. It's very much a bare bow. You shoot the arrow off the shelf. It's a carbon or aluminium arrow with aluminium fletchings, and it's become really, really popular. I think it's probably one of the most popular classes now in NFAS, and I was wanting to have a bit of an experiment with different styles, and a friend Adrian had lent me some gold tips, and I've been trying out gold tips from different bows that I've got, and I've managed to get some Eastern carbon legacies, and I've been experimenting with those, I should say. I have actually been asked if I'd write a review of those for Bow International, so I'm hoping to try and get that done soon. I've also been spending my pennies, and one of the things I've been looking at is how you go about cutting carbon arrows, and I've used a handheld Dremel in the past when they've come to cutting aluminium arrows, but I didn't fancy doing that with carbons. So I've been investigating making a jig for my Dremel to hold it and to be able to cut arrows. And in the end, I read a load of reviews, I had some investigations, I even had a play with one, and I decided to buy a arrow saw or arrow cutter, whatever you want to call it. So I've now got one of those. I need to build a box to hold it and house it all in. So I've now got an arrow saw, and I'll be able to go away and play and cut arrows down and trim arrows down, and maybe club members might be interested in using it as well. What else has been going on? Not a huge amount. I'm booked on a couple more shoots. I haven't done the shoot reports, I promised. I'm really sorry. Just between Easter and work, and I've just been useless basically. I need to get some podcasts out. I need to get some articles out. And also now that the better weather is here, I'm looking out the window. It's a early morning, sun is out, which is a pleasant change because we've had some quite stormy weather. And I can see everything's beginning to come into leaf, which basically means the grass is going to start growing. I've already ploughed over one section of land to sow some seeds. We're putting a section of wildflower meadow kind of mix into one area, and then we've got the veg to go in and all the fruit for the greenhouses, so it's pretty busy. Trying to find the time to do that whilst working full time is going to be challenging, but never mind. And on to archery related stuff and what my question for today is. And I was just wondering, hoping that you're going to be able to respond to some of the questions I'm going to be asking today. This one is following on from a discussion, or a couple of discussions I've had with people recently via Facebook and also face to face. And it revolves around, why did you first start with archery? And I think this is a question that most of us probably ask ourselves. And the answers can be... It's a simple question, but the answers can be quite complicated. And there's a follow-up question to that. And that question is, why have you stuck with it? So let's explore this. And the reasoning for this is because sometimes we forget why we got into archery. Why did we start doing this hobby? Why did we start shooting our bows? Why did we start going to competitions? Is it because we did it for fun? Is it simply because some friends maybe introduced us to it and we went down the wood or we went down the range and we suddenly found out that, hey, this is quite good fun and it's a way of being social, it's a way of keeping in touch with your friends, maybe your partners, that sort of thing. Maybe it was because you liked the idea of competition. You liked the idea of that kind of pressure from shooting. Some people are very competitive. The films like Hunger Games, Avengers, Arrow TV series, all of these have helped promote the sport of archery. The Robin Hood films are always quoted, whichever version you watch. And that got a lot of people into it, and it got a lot of young people into archery. Maybe you did it from the point of view of fitness. You were looking for an activity and you wanted an activity that wasn't strenuous. You got fed up of going to the gym. You wanted to go for walks but have something else involved, so that's why you go into field archery. I don't know, A lot of people have tried it at outdoor pursuit centres or when they've been on holiday. And they've gone, oh, this is quite good fun. I wonder if there's a local club, and have come from there. That's how we started. We were away on holiday. We saw this advert in a local tourist centre saying, come have a go at archery for an afternoon, field archery for an afternoon. We did that, and that was, I don't know how many years ago. And that's how we got hooked. We enjoyed the idea of field archery, and we found a local club, well, not that local as it was, but we started actually shooting, and look at us now. Look at me now, I'm now doing this podcast. So that's why you may have got into it. But why have you stuck with it? Maybe it's because you found new friends. Maybe it's because you've suddenly realised that you're enjoying the outdoors, being out there and doing things. Maybe it's because of the fact you want to pass something on. You want to share what you've learned. You want to share the experiences you've had. And that's where this podcast came from. The idea of sharing what experiences I've had is where the Off the Arrow Shelf website came from. I wanted to put out the whole concept of field archery because not many people were aware of it. They'd seen target archery at the Olympics, and field archery was something I'd got into. And I thought, okay, let's start writing a blog about the experiences and how I developed and what's been going on. What's kept me in it has been the ability to have a relaxation, the ability to learn new things, to set courses, to set challenges for other people. And that's why I probably like course laying. Also, when it comes to coaching, that's why I enjoy coaching, is the ability to help people. Now, the flip side of that is I've stuck with it, and it hasn't always gone well. It hasn't always been easy. I'm just going to have a drink, a cup of coffee. So, it hasn't been easy because sometimes there have been hurdles, whether it be my own health, whether it be the social interaction with other people, which has left me bruised, battered, and a loss of confidence, whether it's been clashes of personalities. So whether it is those challenges, those challenges of interacting with other people having different ideas to you, people possibly feeling threatened by you. I don't know. Kind of getting a bit psychological now. The thing is, what has kept you in this sport? What has kept you in this hobby? Are you the type of archer that likes swapping different types of bows, shooting different styles? I've just started playing with shooting trad bow hunter. Trad bow hunter is shooting arrows off the shelf or off the shelf. But the arrows are carbon arrows or aluminium arrows, feather fletchings. It's a style that is new to me, and it's quite interesting learning all about carbon arrows and trying to set them up. It's the opportunity to learn new things, and the one thing I've learned with archery is the more you learn, the more you realise there is to know, and more possibilities. I was talking to a friend, Adrian, when we were doing some testing on some new arrows. I'm in the process of testing out some Eastern Carbon Legacy arrows. And we were discussing the concepts of passing knowledge on, and how you can read something in a book, but until you actually try it, then maybe you learn that things are slightly different. If you look at the Eastern arrow charts, for example, it tells you what spine you should be shooting for this type of bow or that type of compound bow. Well, in reality, that's a starting point, because you don't know exactly what arrows are going to work for you until you start shooting them. You want to experiment. Don't take everything at face value. And that is why I got into coaching. That's why there's a podcast I was listening to about survival instructor in the army, and he was saying how you might be told this is a way of doing something, but you need to adapt that. You need to make it your own. There isn't one way to do something. If you look at fire lighting, you can use a match, you can use a lighter, you could use a bow drill, you could use fire lighters, you could use silver birch bark, birch bark. All of these ways are methods of lighting a fire. You can light a fire with a battery and a piece of wire if you know what you're doing. The thing being is, you've got to find the one that's most suitable for you and most suitable for the environment that you're in. And it's the same with archery. So I've gone off at a tangent a bit there. So what I'm saying to you now is give some thought. I might put a poll up saying how you got into the sport. If you're an American listener, you may have got into it because you've gone hunting. And that's another avenue, another route to this sport. But the point being is, if you're listening to this podcast, chances are you are actually an archer. So what's kept you going? Is it that challenge of getting a 300 round and shooting really well? Is it the challenge of being able to hit every 3D target on a field archery course with the first arrow rather than having to go to the second peg? Is it because you want to be more competitive, or is it more for your own peace of mind, for your own mindfulness? You just want to be out in the woods. You want to be sociable with your friends. You want to shoot around with your mates. All of these reasons are valid reasons, because they are focusing on yourself. They are focusing on why you got into the hobby. So why am I raising this? It's very easy to forget why you got into something. It's very easy to suddenly think, oh, well, I've got to start competing because everybody else is competing. Or I've got to be taking it more seriously because everybody else is taking it more seriously. Well, yes, taking it, I'll use the phrase seriously, is useful. Making sure your bow's set up correctly, your arrows are right. But you've still got to have the enjoyment of it. Otherwise, you start having the anxiety. You can have target panic can start creeping in because you start building yourself up and thinking, oh, I should be able to hit this. Oh, why aren't I hitting that target? Oh, no, I've gone to the second arrow. And all these sort of things start flooding your head. I think Jim Kent always says, why, Grizzly Jim, for those of you who don't know who Jim Kent is, why he got into it was for the fun of archery, the enjoyment of it. And I think that's a good starting point. that fun of it, that enjoyment of it, that social aspect. I know I enjoy that in some ways. And I'm also enjoy it from a competitive point of view of testing myself. Never been particularly physically fit. Never done sports or athletics at school. The few sports and activities I do tend to be solo activities. So I enjoy walking, enjoy hiking, used to enjoy skiing quite a lot. Not to get down the run the fastest where skiing was concerned, or not to be doing it faster or anything like that, but just because I could be challenging myself. I could say, okay, well, how can I take this turn? How can I do that? And archery is the same. It's a sport, it's a pastime that I can test myself, can beat myself up over it as well, but I can test myself. So think about that. Think about how you got into it, but also why you're still in it now. Now, things can change. You might have got into it for the fun and just having a lark with your mates, and then been introduced to competition and suddenly gone, oh yes, this is what I want to do. This is really how I want to go. Likewise, you may have gone into it from the point of view of being quite competitive or trying to keep up with your friends, and then decided, actually, I'm less interested in the competition, but I quite like the technical aspects. I quite like teaching somebody or showing somebody how they can actually improve. So think about that. Thanks for listening. I hope that's been of use. As I said, I'm going to be putting up some questions, maybe a poll on Spotify, to get your thoughts on this. Let me know. Why did you first start archery? How did you get into it in the beginning? And more importantly, why have you stuck with it? What's that magic formula that's made you stick around? Thanks. Enjoy your archery.
Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you'd like to get in touch with any questions or suggestions for future podcasts, then drop me a line. My email address is offthearrowshelf@yahoo.co.uk. That's offthearrowshelf@yahoo.co.uk. Or you can check out the website offthearrowshelf.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram. Thanks for listening.